Game Pass might be the best deal in gaming. Hundreds of games. One subscription, instant access, no waiting, no risk, no commitment. And honestly, for a lot of players, it feels almost too good to be true. Because for the price of a single new game, you suddenly get access to an entire library. Big AAA releases, indie games, old classics, multiplayer games, story games. Everything. It feels like freedom. But what if subscriptions are quietly changing gaming forever? Not just how we buy games, but how we value them. Today we're talking about Game Pass, subscriptions, and the possibility that gamers are slowly trading ownership for convenience without even realizing it. Press X to argue. Not that long ago, gaming looked very different. You bought a game, you owned it. Maybe you saved money for weeks to get it. Maybe you went to a store with your parents. Maybe you stared at the box art for days before finally opening it. And because games were expensive, every purchase mattered. You didn't have 20 games waiting in a digital queue. You had one, and you played it over and over again. You learned its mechanics. You discovered secrets. You replayed levels. Sometimes you even loved bad games, simply because they were the only games you had. Games felt valuable. Physical shelves became collections. Collections became memories. And then the industry changed. First came digital storefronts, then downloadable games, then giant online libraries. And finally, subscriptions. Now instead of buying one game, you subscribe to access hundreds. And from a consumer perspective, it sounds incredible. Because honestly, it is incredible. Game Pass completely changed the perception of value in gaming. Suddenly, players could try games they would never normally buy. Indie games explode in visibility because there was no financial risk to trying them. Players became more experimental. And Microsoft positioned Game Pass as the center of the Xbox ecosystem, not the console. The ecosystem. That's important because the modern gaming war isn't just about hardware anymore. It's about attention. It's about time. It's about keeping you inside a platform for as long as possible. And subscriptions are perfect for that because subscriptions change behavior. When you buy a game, you make a commitment. You chose that experience. But when you subscribe, your relationship with games becomes different. Games become content. Something to browse, something to sample, something to abandon after 20 minutes because there are 500 more waiting. And this is where things get complicated. Because Game Pass doesn't just change access, it changes psychology. When everything is available, nothing feels special. Think about it. How many games have you downloaded from a subscription service only to stop playing after an hour? How many incredible games are sitting unfinished in your library right now? Back when games were limited, players squeezed everything out of them. Now, many players barely finish anything. And it's not because games got worse. It's because abundance changes attention. The same thing happened to movies and music. Streaming gave us infinite access, but somehow made individual experiences feel less important. Albums became playlists. Movies became background noise. And games risked becoming disposable. Not because they are bad, but because there are simply too many options competing for your attention at the same time. And the industry knows this. That's why subscriptions are becoming central to modern gaming strategy. Because recurring revenue is powerful. Selling one game once is good. Charging millions of users every month forever, that's even better. Subscriptions create predictable income, investor confidence, ecosystem loyalty, and most importantly, they reduce ownership. Because ownership gives players freedom. Subscriptions give platforms control. That's the trade. And most people accept it willingly because the value proposition feels impossible to refuse. But there's another side to this conversation that people don't talk about enough. Subscriptions can change how games are designed. If the goal becomes maximizing engagement inside a service, then games may slowly start optimizing for retention instead of memorability. Longer progression systems, daily rewards, artificial grinds. Games designed to keep you subscribed instead of delivering focused experiences. Because once gaming becomes a service ecosystem, attention becomes currency, and attention is addictive. This doesn't mean Game Pass is evil. Far from it. In many ways, it's one of the best things to happen to consumers in years. It gives smaller developers visibility. It lowers entry barriers. It makes gaming more accessible. And for players with limited budgets, it's incredible value. But every major convenience in technology comes with a trade-off. Social media gave everyone a voice, but damaged attention spans. Streaming made entertainment accessible, but weakened ownership. And subscriptions may be doing the same thing to gaming, slowly changing the emotional relationship players have with games. Because there's something psychologically different about owning something. When you buy a game individually, it carries weight. You remember it. You attach value to it. You commit to it. But subscription libraries often feel temporary, transient, endless. Games appear. Games disappear. One month, something is available. The next month, it's gone. And this creates a strange feeling where your library never truly feels permanent. You're not building a collection anymore, and you're renting access to a rotating catalog. And maybe younger players won't care about that at all. Maybe ownership itself is becoming outdated. After all, modern audiences already grew up with Spotify and Netflix. Access feels more natural than ownership. Why buy permanently? When you can subscribe temporarily and honestly, maybe that future is inevitable. But there's still a question worth asking. What happens when every form of entertainment becomes subscription-based? Movies, music, games, software, cloud storage, everything. At some point, consumers stop owning culture entirely. And instead, they lease access from corporations indefinitely. That's a very different world from the one gaming started in. And maybe the strangest part is how quickly players adapted to it. A decade ago, the idea of not owning games sounded ridiculous. Now, many players actively prefer it because convenience is powerful. Convenience almost always wins. Digital beat physical, streaming beat downloads, subscriptions may eventually beat buying. Not because they are better in every way, but because they are easier. And history shows that easier usually wins. But easier doesn't always mean healthier. Sometimes friction creates appreciation. Sometimes limitation creates meaning. Sometimes owning fewer things makes those things matter more. And gaming might be going through that exact transformation right now. The shift from experiences we own to experiences we temporarily access. And maybe that's why modern gaming sometimes feels different. Not worse, just different. More content-rich, but less personal. More accessible, but less memorable. Because when games become infinite, players stop treating them like events. They become part of an endless feed. And feeds are designed to keep moving, not to stay with you forever. So, who's really winning here? Microsoft is clearly building toward a subscription-first future. Sony is slowly adapting. Nintendo still largely resists the model. And players are getting incredible value, but also slowly accepting a world where ownership matters less and less. Maybe that's completely fine. Maybe physical ownership is just nostalgia. Or maybe we're giving away something important without realizing it, not just discs or boxes, but permanence, connection, commitment, because years ago, players built collections. Now we scroll catalogs, and those are not the same thing. So let me ask you this. Would you rather own 10 games you truly love or access 500 you barely remember? Press X in the comments. Press X in the comments and let the argument begin. If you like real analysis, without filters and without fanboyism, subscribe and hit the bell. The next argument is already being prepared. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.